like to welcome all of you to the 6th edition of Q2B Silicon Valley. Thanks a lot, everybody, for coming. We've got an extremely full program organized for the next couple of days, and so I'm just going to make a couple of really quick introductory remarks. The first thing I want to talk about is why we've all gathered here. And the biggest open question in quantum computing is, what are these doggone systems good for? What practically can these machines do? And it occurred to us when we wanted to set up Q2B that, you know, in the US at least, the quantum computing industry is very much a self-organizing organism. But we wanted to put a little structure into it to pull all the stakeholders together to try to answer this question. And so that's really the mission of Q2B. It's to get everyone together and, figuratively speaking, lock everyone into a room together for a couple of days. And when we think about that, it's really the users of that technology that are doing a lot of the application discovery. But in order for them to really pull this off, they've got to understand what the state of the art is through the entire QC technology stack. And so over the next couple of days, what you're going to hear are dozens and dozens of talks by vendors who are building hardware, algorithms, middleware, application software that's all meant to be directed at use cases. And then finally, those two bodies, those two groups are meant to come together in collaborations. And so what Q2B does, very fortunately, thanks to everyone attending, has pulled together really the who's who of the QC industry. And so when you look at the sets of stakeholders we have here, those are the same basic groups that are involved anytime a new transformational technology takes off. So when you think about the space race and building launch vehicles and lunar landers, you have these same institutions. Or when you think about the biggest enabling technology in information tech over the last several decades, it's the internet, and it was all these parties getting together. So that's what we've worked to do, to facilitate all of that coming together. So I think you're going to find it very interesting when you consider all the sophisticated groups that you're going to be able to talk to. And over the years, fortunately, a lot of these groups have seen value in Q2B, and that's why Q2B has grown by around 300% over the last 5 years, which is pretty remarkable. None of this could happen. The roof over our heads, the food and drink that we're consuming, the audiovisual, all the production, all of this is underwritten by the sponsors of the Q2B conference. And so I do just want to take a couple of minutes to call out all of them on slides. The platinum sponsor this year is Quantinuum. And by the way, I just had a chat with Mark Jackson from Quantinuum. He reminded me that he's attended all 6 of the Q2B conferences, so he and I are kind of tied for the lead there. I'm sure there's some others. But it's great to have Quantinuum really stepping up and being helpful. The other, right on their heels, is AFRL. AFRL has participated in Q2B for all 6 of the years, and for 5 of those years they've been an anchor sponsor. So thanks in particular to Mike Haydick from AFRL and his team. And also General Heather Pringle is going to be one of the keynote speakers tomorrow, so you'll hear from her. She's the commander of AFRL. But all of these other parties that are listed on these following pages are these slides. I want to highlight all of them. There are large hardware vendors, there are hardware startups, there are nonprofits, there are software companies, the entire software stack, there are national governments, there are nonprofit funds, consulting firms, quantum technology companies, venture capital firms, and groups that are sponsoring everything down to the swag that you've got. So I'd really appreciate it if we could take just a second to give these groups a round of applause for making this possible. And also quickly, I won't go into the detail of the agenda for the next 3 days, but to make a long story short, on day 1, which is today, and day 3, which is Thursday, on each of those days, there are multiple tracks. So my advice would be, as things kick off on each of those days, look through all of the talks that are going on in all of those tracks so you can pick out where you want to be at any time during those days. Also noteworthy is that today and tomorrow, at the end of the formal proceedings, there are going to be happy hours which is really meant to stimulate conversation and the collaborations that we were talking about. So our team is really looking forward to seeing all of you there, and I'm sure it will be a really nice social time. Finally, I want to talk about something important. The QC industry is global in nature, and what we found in organizing this conference is that there's a lot of demand pull from other parts of the world to have this same exercise, this application discovery, happening on an annual basis. So this year, for the first time, we're going to be in Paris, and that's going to be May 3rd through the 4th. We're organizing this with BPI France, which is a public investment bank in France and has a lot of reach in France and outside of there. So I think this is going to be quite big. It's going to happen just a couple of weeks before the French Open, so there won't be a lot of competition for hotels. And it's also a beautiful time of year to be in France, so that's a fringe benefit. So I hope to see a lot of you there. Also, last year for the first time, we did Q2B Tokyo, and we organized that with Kunisys, which is a Japanese application software company. And we're doing that again next year, so that will also be a continuing theme and an event. And this year it's from July 19th to 20th in Tokyo, so please keep those dates free. And then finally, we're back here, the same date pattern next year, which is December 5th through 7th in Santa Clara. And really, that's all I had to say. It's really good to see a lot of familiar faces here. The vibe of this conference isn't supposed to be high intensity and high density and all of that. It's really just supposed to be facilitating a nice set of conversations between people that are all trying to get to the same end. So thank you very much, and have a great time over the next couple of days. Thank you.